Hello and welcome to episode 22 of the SolarQuotes Vodcast, where Ronald and I will be discussing the demise of the Victorian solar industry, what cast mono means in terms of making solar panels, options for DIY solar PV diversion through home automation. That was a mouthful.
Yes, that's when you're making your stuff work the way you want it to, when you want it to.
Yeah, we'll be talking about PPAs. We'll be talking about poisonous coal ash.
Oh, yes.
One of your favourite subjects. And we'll be talking about the mainstream media, aka Sunrise on 7, talking shit about batteries.
Yeah.
How are you, Ronald?
Oh, I'm good. And, well, we got some good news for some people. Not so good news for others. Electricity prices are going down.
As of July the 1st?
Yes, but I find it usually takes a week or so for them to actually get the act together. So the electricity retailers might have not have actually cut their prices yet. But, you know, next week they probably will have sorted it all out.
So my home's with AGL. I got a note from AGL saying your electricity prices have changed and your feed-in tariff's gone down.
Yes, that's another thing.
I didn't actually look at what the new usage tariff is because I don't really care because I'm probably 95% self-consumption.
Yep.
Which is one of the benefits of a battery. The feed-in tariff's gone down from 16 cents to 14, so that's a bit of a shame.
Yes, that is a shame. So, okay, not good for people with huge solar systems exporting lots of electricity, but not unexpected because, well, renewable energy has been helping push prices down.
So, the interesting thing is when feed-in tariffs go down, batteries payback gets better, unless electricity prices go down as well, because then they go down. It's the difference, and so that's actually what seems to have happened.
Yeah, exactly.
So beware people saying the feed-in tariff's gone down. You should get a battery now because if your usage tariff has gone down as well, the difference between the usage tariff and the feed-in tariff is still the same.
Yes, it's basically a wash, more or less.
But hang on. I saw lots of quotes based on the fact that electricity prices can only go up every year.
Oh yeah, that's right. According to my calculations, electricity should cost about $1.30 now per kilowatt hour, according to what some solar installers, dodgy ones, were saying, just 5 years ago.
Let's move on to the Victorian solar industry.
Okay, because
should we have a minute's silence? Because I think it's dead.
Yeah. Okay. As Mark Twain said, the stories, I can't remember now. I'm not dead, he said.
The stories of my death
have been much exaggerated or something. Yes, but it's, okay. 2 second silence. Done. Now, because it's not dead yet, it's just been screwed around by a very stupidly implemented policy. I thought the idea was to increase the amount of solar being installed in Victoria, but the way it's been implemented, it's not going to increase the amount of solar because it's so stupid. Yes, do you want to? So if you want the rebate, the Victorian $2,225 rebate for solar, there's only a limited number, and they were all taken in 3 days, the first 3 days of the month. So who's going to install solar if you can't get that rebate? It's stupid.
So for the other 90% of the month, there's going to be very, very few solar cells.
Yes.
So essentially, tell me if I'm wrong, they've reduced, in an amazingly buoyant market, they've reduced demand for solar by 90%.
You're wrong, but it's still a massive pain for the solar industry in Victoria. So you'd have to look at the figures to work it out. So there's going to be a huge number of people applying in those first 3 days. So it wouldn't be 90%, but maybe it's half. Maybe they've cut it by half.
So what business can cope with that kind of cut in sales?
Not many.
Not many.
Yes, like I said, you have to look at the numbers before you can work out what the drop in sales has or will be or whatever. But yeah, it's a horrible system, and it's all avoidable, all so avoidable. I thought, when they first introduced it, okay, election time, they're in a hurry, they didn't get it right, they'll fix it. But they've made it worse. So stupid.
So we're very close to a number of generally smaller Victorian solar installation companies. So really good guys. And we are talking to them, and they are in a hell of a state. They're really worried. A lot of them are talking about getting out of the solar installation business in Victoria. Solar Victoria, I know we've spoken to you on occasion. This is a very well-meaning rebate, but it's a fucking disaster for the industry. You are on your way to destroying, in my opinion, the best part of that industry, which is the small and medium guys, and this cannot go on. This is absolutely unsustainable, like cutting off so many sales after 3 days of the month. I think you have to eat some humble pie, and yes, you can fiddle around the edges. I think they've just got to stop it. Like, there's enough demand for solar in Victoria. Yes, it's going to take a bit of time for people to get their heads around the fact that solar's suddenly $2,000 more expensive without the Victorian rebate, but it'll come back. That's better than dragging this thing on for 10 years. You're killing some of the best solar companies in Victoria.
Yes, you'd be better off without it. Unfortunately, yeah, that's true. The way you're going, better off without it. Just cut it to $1,000 maybe, and give it to everyone. No, it's easy that way. Then no one will be going out of business.
Yeah,
that's a simple fix. Or just get rid of it altogether.
Either get rid of it or fix it, but it's going to have to be a drastic change. Like, don't cut it by $200. Cut it by, cut it to $1,000, $500.
Don't have the stop and start. Don't have that. Whatever it takes, don't have the stop and start. Yeah.
So, I mean, government trying to sticking their oar in and just, like I say, I'm pleading with you, Solar Victoria, on behalf of these solar companies, just either stop it or fix it. And you're going to have to admit you made a mistake. Should we talk about one good thing they're doing in Victoria as part of this scheme?
Yes, definitely.
They are introducing independent inspections for 5% of up to 5% of installs.
Yes, that's excellent news, and I know 5% doesn't sound like nearly enough, but that could be enough to have have a massive help, be a huge help to the industry.
And they're emphasizing the fact that these are independent inspectors who are going to take up to 2 hours in installation to audit it, and that's good because currently in Victoria you can choose your own inspector.
Yes,
and for some reason that's not working very well. So you have mandatory inspections of every solar system in Victoria, but you can choose your own inspector. So it's kind of almost pointless.
Finn, will you inspect my system for me, which I put up myself?
No worries, buddies.
Yep.
No worries. So. Solar Victoria, the Victorian solar industry is an absolute clusterfuck at the moment, and I hope they fix it. What is a cast monosilicon solar panel?
It's like monosilicon, but not as good.
Awesome.
But
cheaper.
Yeah, it's cheaper.
Okay.
And it's better than polysilicon, which is also cheaper.
Better how?
Okay. Monosilicon is better than polysilicon. Monosilicon is one big crystal of silicon cut into solar cells. Maybe that could be suggestive. High efficiency. Polysilicon has many crystals. It's kind of pretty, but it's not as efficient, and it's cheaper to make. To make one big crystal, you need to use electrical energy and specialized equipment, and so that costs more. With polysilicon, you just use thermal energy, which is cheaper than electricity, and you just melt it in a mold. So, but what if you could get an in-between thing where there's almost pretty much one big crystal, but it's got some defects in it.
Right.
But it costs almost the same to make as polysilicon.
Okay.
And that's what cast silicon is. But the way they make it, they get a mold. In the center of the mold, they let the molten silicon cool slowly, and you get the cast mono, one big crystal with defects.
But they start it by laying some monosilicon on the bottom, don't they?
Yes, that's right. To
give it a clue as to what they want it to form.
Do. Yes, so you'll have proper crystals forming through it.
Yeah.
One big crystal, hopefully. But around the edges, you get polysilicon. So expect to see many cast monosilicon panels on the market. As far as I can see, there's nothing wrong with them. Hopefully there'll be no disaster in the future, which wasn't seen coming. I think they're fine, and they have lower LID, light-induced degradation, than normal mono or poly panels. So they're unclear on just how much, so I always get suspicious when they don't give numbers.
Coming soon to a salesman near you.
That's
Cast
right.
mono solar panels.
Don't get carried away. There's nothing super special about them. It's just a nice little cost reduction.
Yeah. Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Now, this was one of the most popular posts on the blog this week.
Yes.
DIY solutions for solar power diversion through home automation.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a mouthful. Solar power diversion is when you want to switch something on when you have excess solar. So basically you have a little sensor on the right wire and it says, hey, you're exporting solar to the grid. And so to maximize self-consumption, you switch something on.
Right.
So you use it in your house instead of exporting it to the grid. For example, electric car.
Yeah, electric car.
For example, hot water. For example, a heater. Something that's time agnostic, relatively time agnostic.
Can you turn on your dishwasher when there's power, spare power? Just load it up, have it sit there.
You can, but then you can't switch it off for an hour or two.
Is that a disaster?
It's not a disaster. No.
Yep.
Yeah, you could certainly get a signal that it looks likely that you're going to have sun for the... Well, that's when it's getting quite a bit more funky. It's saying, well, I reckon we'll have enough sun for 2 hours, so switch it on.
Yep.
Which isn't hard to do these days.
Yeah.
Hey, you should patent that.
Someone's probably done already.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the problem is it's quite hard to do. So here's an example from the blog post. So you got an inverter that has to go up to the cloud and talk to PV Output, which is a website that logs solar generation. And then you have to go down to a thing called Home Assistant, which turns the signal, well, the numbers into a signal, which then can send to a TP-Link smart switch, which plugs into your socket, which switches on and off. So what you really want to do is that. Your inverter goes, hey, exporting solar energy, switch on.
Yeah, simple.
But
Cheap.
There's no inverter that can do that because we don't have the standards.
It's so easy to do, though, technically.
Yeah, and like Richard's blog post a couple of weeks ago said, we just need a standard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's switching something on and off. I mean, it's the simplest thing ever. So hopefully the industry, I think the inverter manufacturers get together, agree on the standard, put it out there. Smart switches, you get it for $20 from Kogan. We'll implement it.
Yeah, easy.
Let's do it.
Excellent idea.
Yeah.
Please do it.
And that's going to become more and more important as the value deflation of solar, which means that the more solar you get, the less valuable it is when it's generated, because it's all generated at the same time. And so it's going to become important to do this, what's called demand management, switching stuff on and off intelligently.
Yes.
And I think people will be happy to do it if they've got control of it.
Yeah.
What they tend to not like is when the energy retailers go, hey, we'll take control of your pool pump.
Yeah.
People don't like that.
No, turning off your air conditioner.
Yeah, they're an independent lot, Aussies.
For good reason.
Yeah, good on them. I don't know why they don't trust the retailers. Can't work it out.
Don't know why they don't trust the government. Oh well.
Should we get onto a bad review?
Yeah, that's always fun.
This is a
Can I read this one? No, you better read it. I've got lousy eyes.
Okay. The salesperson misled me as to the arrangement for this system. How bad can the misdirection be? Turns out it was a rental. Hang on. So at the end, I don't own it. What?
Oh my God.
He doesn't own it. $8,000 for a dodgy system. So according to this chap, he's paid $8,000 for a solar system and he doesn't, as far as he's aware, he doesn't actually own the thing.
God damn it. So naughty.
Yeah. The savings quoted at the beginning were fanciful, especially since the system frequently shuts down and resets. That could be a high voltage thing or it could be something else. Even on bright sunny days, it rarely gets near its so-called capacity of 3 kilowatts. $8,000 for a 3 kilowatt system and you don't even own it, mate.
Yeah.
So this was, he says this was a company called Got to Go Solar.
They've
Mate,
gotta go.
You've got to go to Consumer Affairs.
Yes.
If this is true.
Yes.
Because it's an absolute shocker.
I'd suggest you were misled. So one, get the whole system removed. Make sure they remove it properly and don't leave holes in your roof. Get your money back.
Yeah, that's the only remedy for something.
Yeah.
If all this is true, as you've said, that would be the only remedy, as I reckon. Where do you think they sit in Oz ranking? Bottom 1%. So they've got an average score of 2.6 compared to all other companies on our site with as many reviews as them. They're in the bottom 1%. Most companies are obviously up around here at 4 point something. So that's...
Yes.
Have I showed you that before? It's quite an interesting tool. I dreamed up.
Every cast we've done.
We'll get there.
Last month, yes, you've shown it to me.
Get used to it, buddy.
Did you come off your bike recently?
A good review.
Yes.
This is a client called Soltech Energy, based in Sydney. They've been around since 2009, as long as us. They've been a client for many, many years, not quite that long, but Soltec Energy, in particular, Karen from Soltec, were great to deal with. I had many questions, all of which were answered diligently, and that gave me great confidence to do business with Soltec. The installation happened a week after deposit, and the installers worked well and answered all my questions. Now, this is interesting because Soltec's approach is a bit different to a lot of solar installers. What I liked most about Soltec is they have many panels to choose from, with all types of configurations offered: string, optimizer, and micros. So, yeah, Soltec, I like their approach, actually. Someone knows what they want, Soltec will give it to them. They won't try and sell them what they've got in stock or what their favorite technology is, because at the end of the day, it all works.
Yes. So that's another example of people liking choice, I guess.
Yes.
I don't like choice, People should do what I say, but who am I to argue?
Look, some installers very successfully, for example, they'll only do micros, or they'll only do Fronius, or, and they'll only do two brands of panels. And that might work well for them. But yeah, personally, if I was buying solar, because I'm an opinionated git, I want what you want. One of them. So good on them. I found other companies would have a limited range and would try to convince you their systems were the best.
Yes.
If the customer's made up his mind before he comes to you, then work with him, I would say. So good on you, Soltec. Should we see where they sit on my favourite feature?
Yes, let's have a look at that.
They are in the top 37%.
Okay, so they're good. I mean, when you get to this big lump here, you're in pretty good crowd there.
Yeah, that big spiky lump.
Don't be in that tail, man.
Not quite the bell curve.
No.
We probably just need more
Bart
reviews.
Simpson.
It is Bart Simpson's head.
Yeah.
Well done, Soltec. You're at the top of Bart Simpson's head. Awesome. This was interesting. So, solar PPA proves popular at new Perth housing estate. This is a blog post by Michael.
Who would have thought in Perth, where solar is so cheap?
Well, that is interesting. You can literally get a good 6.6 kilowatt system for 4.5.
Yeah.
Something like that.
That's power competition, I guess.
Now, so PPA means power purchase agreement, and there's a housing estate in Perth where they've put the solar panels on at no upfront cost to the homeowner, the person that's going to buy the house.
Building owner.
And the deal, it seems very fair. If they use electricity from the grid, they get charged the flat grid rate.
Yep.
If they use electricity from the solar, they get 40% less than that.
Yep.
So I think the flat grid rate's 29, so they get it for about 12-cent discount. Yeah, that'd be about right. If it gets exported to the grid, they just get charged for that at the feed-in tariff, and then they get two bills.
Right.
So
they get the feed-in tariff.
Yeah, and they get the feed-in tariff. So the feed-in tariff cancels out, so they're not losing out. What you've got to be careful of with some PPAs is they were charging you for all the energy delivered from the solar panels, and if you didn't use it, you were probably earning less in feed-in tariff than you were paying for it. So you're actually losing out by exporting energy. But that's not happening here. This is a very well designed, done by Infinite Energy. Very well designed, seems like a very fair PPA.
Yeah.
Personally, I always recommend buying outright.
Yes.
But, PPAs, a good PPA, it gets solar out there, it reduces your electricity costs.
Better than not having solar.
Better than not having solar.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. Here you go, Ronald. This one's for you.
Oh, coal ash dumps.
Australia's coal ash dumps a ticking time bomb.
Yeah, okay. You burn wood, there's the ash that's left behind. Don't eat it. Don't stick it up your nose. It's not healthy. But it's pretty benign compared to coal ash, because coal's not just ancient wood. It's got dirt and everything in it. So when you burn it, mercury is released. There's mercury in the ash, other contaminants, toxins, etc. And there's vast amounts of it, and they stabilize it, which means they make it wet. Sometimes they, cover it in dirt and grow plants on top of it. But yes, contamination of groundwater with, toxic heavy metals is a problem. It's an expense, and another reason to stop burning coal, so we won't have to deal with it.
I think people forget, people think coal, CO2 emissions, but there's so many other issues with it. There's the particulate pollution, which is the little bits that come out of the stacks, which literally get in your lungs and kill you. Yep. And then there's this, which leaches into the environment, gets into the fish. And
there's the one which almost no one knows about. Coal plants reduce agricultural productivity. They release ozone into the lower atmosphere, and that is extremely bad for the majority of crops.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why China imports so many soybeans. They have trouble growing them in China.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, we've just got to shut these things down as a matter of urgency. Ramp up the renewables, force the coal-fired power stations to shut down. That's just because of the economics.
Yes. Make them pay for the health costs and for the global warming greenhouse gas costs. Simple.
Here we go. You just wrote this.
Yeah,
Sunrise TV gets it wrong. Surprise! Yeah. Installing batteries will lose most households' money. Mm-hmm. So tell us about this TV report. What did it actually say, in a nutshell?
It said that if you get a battery, at the end, he says, solar battery system can pay for itself. It can have a payoff period, that's his words, of about 5 years.
So they spent the entire clip talking to a guy about his, was it $46,000 solar battery system. Mm-hmm. Looked like a 10 kilowatt solar system, which a couple of years ago would not have costed more than 15 grand, you wouldn't have thought.
Depends, but yeah.
So what's that, $31,000 on batteries?
Yeah.
On 20 kilowatt hours of batteries, not even usable, say 18 usable. Total savings from the whole system, he said, were $4,000 a year?
Yes, $46,000 to buy. He saves $4,000 a year.
Yeah.
46,000 divided by 4,000.
It's not
five. That's not five.
It's very misleading.
I went to school in Queensland, so I can count on my fingers. And it doesn't work.
I would consider that misleading. I'd consider it deceptive. So we were getting calls, people saying, "Hey, Sunrise say batteries pay for themselves in 5 years. What are you guys talking about?" we really were.
Yeah.
So we watched it and went,
"They're wrong."
Yes. So what was the thrust of your post?
They're wrong.
Yeah.
Basically, solar pays for itself. The battery part will not pay for itself. Unless maybe in South Australia, there's nowhere in Australia where batteries will pay for themselves for a normal family without the South Australian subsidy. There's subsidies in Canberra. Maybe Reposit can help us with this. Can you send us some information on the people paying off their battery systems?
Real life savings? Real data. That'd be really interesting to see.
We don't have that, so all we can do is infer things, and I've inferred, worked out, done the maths, doesn't work.
Well, this battery owner said his battery is like a stockbroker. It buys low and sells high.
You know a stockbroker exists by taking their percentage. What percentage is his battery taking?
When you factor in the wear and tear on the battery, and you factor in the difference between a peak price and an off-peak price, you're not making much, if any, profit arbitraging electricity with a battery. And when you take into account the round trip efficiency, which is going to be about 85%, and you take into account a few other things, which I won't even go into, this mythical arbitrage just doesn't make sense.
At the moment, no, that doesn't pay for itself. This may change in the future if virtual power plants can provide large, significant payments for being part of the power plant, virtual power plant, or battery prices go a lot lower, either or both.
I mean, the owner's very happy because he's got essentially, he said $0 bills most months. If you can't get $0 bills with a 10 kilowatt solar system, no battery, I don't know what you're doing wrong. And a decent feed-in tariff, which you can get in New South Wales.
Yep.
You're doing something very wrong.
Very wrong.
Imagine what you could have spent that 31 grand on. Insulating his house.
What's a new Tesla?
The difference between certainly make up the difference between a petrol car and a Model 3.
Yeah.
Insulating his house, double glazing, just putting it in the bank and using it for good.
Yep. Nice holiday.
It's technology fetishism.
Okay, if you want to buy a battery and you're not worried about what it costs or if you make or lose money, that's fine, man. But you'd have to be loaded to do that.
But the whole segment was about, and it was introduced by Cocky, about if you want to say something along the lines of, if you want to save money, the secret is to get a battery.
Yes.
Which couldn't be more wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There are people who are going to lose money because of this segment. And they're going to hurt. Because they're looking to save money, they're going to lose out.
Yeah, and we see it very often, especially with old people who are desperate to get their bills down. When you tout batteries as the magic bullet, you will get old people who have got a fixed income until they die, dropping tens of thousands of dollars on a battery that will only lose them money.
Yeah.
a battery is just a bucket. It just stores energy. It doesn't generate energy. Although we've seen some battery salesmen claiming they generate
Yes.
electricity.
Yes.
That's not unheard of.
Yeah, it's wrong. Stop doing it.
And that's why we come out strong against this misinformation, because people are spending tens of thousands of dollars for a solution that is not saving them money. Anything else?
Well, hey, aren't you going away?
Yes, there will be no vodcast for the next 4 weeks.
Oh, so sad.
I'm going on holiday. Jono behind the camera is going on holiday.
I'll be
What are
here,
you
but
doing?
I'm here, but they don't trust me to do them by myself for some reason.
Trust you with a camera and a YouTube upload.
Fuck, why don't you fucking trust me? God damn it.
So what we'll do is we'll upload, we've got some videos that I've already made
Oh, cool.
about simple solar concepts, which are taken from a talk I do around the traps to the councils, and we'll upload 1 or 2 of them a week.